Cape Verde, or Cabo Verde, literally means green cape. But instead of lush forests, this island nation is surrounded by the endless Atlantic Ocean and a chain of rugged volcanic islands. People have learned to grow grapes and build their lives on the fertile slopes of an active volcano despite the harsh landscape. This tiny archipelago of just over 500,000 people once stunned the world with its remarkable World Cup story. But the lives its people have made away from the football pitch are more inspiring than anything that happened in the tournament. This is the Cape Verde you've never heard about. In the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, about 570 kilometers off the coast of Senegal, Cape Verde is made up of 10 volcanic islands, each separated by the sea and shaped by its own distinct landscape. No two islands feel exactly alike. Sal is known for its beaches and resorts. Fogo is dominated by an active volcano. Santo Antão is covered with deep valleys and terraced farms, while São Vicente has long been regarded as the cultural heart of the archipelago. Crossing from one island to another often feels like entering a completely different country. The country's identity grew from the meeting of Europeans and West Africans during the colonial era and the transatlantic slave trade. That unique history still shapes daily life today. Portuguese remains the official language, while Cape Verdean Creole is spoken at home. African rhythms blend with European architecture. Catholic churches stand beside traditions rooted in West Africa, and the country's identity has never belonged entirely to one continent. The ocean isolated each island, yet it also became the very route that connected this remote archipelago to the rest of the world. Few people realize that the name Cape Verde has nothing to do with the landscape of these islands. Instead, it comes from Cape Verde, a peninsula on the coast of Senegal that Portuguese sailors passed before reaching the archipelago. So, despite meaning Green Cape, the name has never reflected what you'll actually see in present-day Cape Verde. Nature has never been especially generous to this land. Rather than a lush tropical paradise, the islands are defined by black volcanic slopes, scorching dunes, and dry landscapes where fresh water is so scarce that every drop feels like a miracle. A map can show you where the people of Cape Verde live, but it can never capture the spirit of this country. To truly experience Cape Verde, You have to step onto its windswept streets, welcome the first rays of sunlight along the shoreline, and fall into the rhythm of everyday life as a new morning begins. In Cape Verde, a new day does not begin with blaring horns or crowds rushing through the streets. It begins with fishing boats quietly returning after a long night on the Atlantic. As the first catch is brought ashore, the markets slowly come to life. Fresh fish, corn, beans, vegetables, and warm bread begin to fill the familiar stalls. Vendors will greet you by your name as if you were an old friend, and a few words of conversation will usually precede any bargaining or exchange of money. To many Cape Verdeans, the market is more than a place to trade. It's where the community gathers and stays connected day after day. Around the market stalls, a familiar layer of sound gives Cape Verdean mornings a character all their own. Boat engines continue to hum in the harbor. Knives strike wooden tables as the morning catch is cleaned. Vendors call to one another in Creole, their voices blending with music drifting from old radios in nearby cafes. The scent of sea salt hangs in the air. Fresh fish, warm bread, and roasted coffee fill the narrow streets. No blaring horns, no hurried footsteps, and yet the island is alive. Outside the market, much of the island's daily life revolves around Alugar pickup trucks. Packed with passengers and often playing loud music, they carry workers from coastal villages to the main towns. Some head out to sea, others make their way to the fields, while shopkeepers prepare to open for the day. Life moves at a steady pace. There is little room for idleness, but there is no sense of constant urgency either. People work hard, but are always ready to stop for a moment and say hello to somebody they know on the road. That sense of connectedness is what gives the islands their unique sense of tranquility. Yet this peaceful rhythm can make it easy to forget that Cape Verde has never been an easy place to live. Most of the food, fuel, and everyday essentials used here must first travel hundreds of kilometers across the ocean before reaching the islands. Behind the fresh fish and baskets of corn displayed at the market each morning lies a long history of adaptation. For generations, Cape Verdeans have learned to make the most of what nature provides. Rainfall in Cape Verde is both scarce and unpredictable, making fresh water one of the country's most precious resources. From almost every beach in Cape Verde, the Atlantic stretches to infinity in all directions. The islands are encircled by water. Waves crash against the shore day and night. But almost none of it can be used for drinking or irrigation. Here, one of the Earth's most abundant resources becomes one of its most scarce necessities. Therefore, along with groundwater and rainwater collection systems, many communities rely on seawater desalination plants to meet their daily needs. Desalination requires enormous amounts of energy, driving up the cost of water and adding to the country's already high cost of living. As a result, water is treated with care everywhere, from family kitchens and small farms to the beachfront resorts that welcome visitors from around the world. A shortage of fresh water does not simply shape the landscape. It quietly shapes almost every decision people make, from what they grow to what they can afford to eat. Even the land can be unforgiving. Only a small portion of the country can be farmed, so people have patiently carved terraces into steep mountainsides to hold on to both soil and water. There, they grow corn, beans, sugarcane, bananas, and vegetables suited to the dry climate. At the foot of Pico de Fogo, the country's only active volcano, families continue to live and farm on the mineral-rich volcanic soil. In 2014, the volcano awakened. For 88 days, rivers of lava slowly spread across Chá das Caldeiras, burying homes, roads, and farmland in the villages of Portela and Bangaira. Nearly 1,000 people were forced to leave, abandoning houses swallowed by lava and fields that had sustained generations. Even after the devastating eruption destroyed entire villages and buried once green farmland beneath molten rock, they returned. They had lost everything, but they refused to leave for good. What seemed to be nothing more than rock and hardened lava once again became the foundation for generations of life. People returned to rebuild their homes, restore the land that could still be farmed, and once again grow grapes in the mineral-rich volcanic soil. They know Fogo could awaken again, but leaving for good would also mean leaving behind their land, their livelihoods, their memories, and the place they belong. They did not return because the volcano had become safe. They returned because this is still home. And when the land cannot provide enough, The ocean becomes the island's greatest source of livelihood. Every day, small fishing boats head out to catch tuna, mackerel, and other local species. Behind every trip is generations of knowledge about the winds, ocean currents, and the ever-changing weather. Those catches feed families, supply local markets, and remain a familiar part of everyday meals across the islands. Alongside the land and the sea, tourism has become an economic lifeline in recent decades, especially on the islands of Sal and Boa Vista, where long stretches of white sand and year-round sunshine attract visitors from around the world. The industry provides jobs for thousands of people in hotels, restaurants, transportation, and other service businesses. But those opportunities are not shared equally across every island, leaving Cape Verde's economy especially vulnerable to global disruptions. Even after generations of adaptation, the country still depends on imports for much of its rice, flour, milk, fuel, and many other essential goods. Transporting those supplies across the Atlantic drives up prices, while expensive housing in cities like Praia and Mindelo places even greater pressure on household budgets. Rather than relying on expensive imported foods, Cape Verdeans turned the simplest, most affordable ingredients into a cuisine they take great pride in. It brings together the bold, hearty flavors of West Africa with the subtle elegance of Portuguese cooking. No dish represents that story better than cachupa, Cape Verde's national dish. Made with corn, beans, and vegetables, it may also include fish or meat, depending on what each family can afford. Because dried corn and beans need to simmer over a wood fire for hours, families usually prepare one large pot that will last for several days. Making the most of what they have helps Cape Verdeans put food on the table. But sustaining an entire community across these isolated islands takes something more. They need one another. Visitors to Cape Verde are often surprised by how easily a smile, a greeting, or an unexpected conversation can begin with someone they have never met before. This is more than simple politeness. Cape Verdeans call this way of life morabeza. No language can fully capture the meaning of Morabeza. It is often described as hospitality. But to Cape Verdeans, Morabeza is also about kindness, generosity, and making a stranger feel as though they have always belonged. Cape Verdeans could not control the distance that separated them from the rest of the world, nor the famines brought by isolation and drought. What they could control was how they chose to respond. Do not rush. Do not complain more than necessary. Adapt and enjoy the life you have. No stress. Perhaps that is why so many visitors leave Cape Verde with memories of more than its blue waters and volcanic landscapes. They also remember the warmth of the people they met along the way. That warmth is not only preserved in everyday greetings or around the family table. When festival season begins, it spills into the streets, carried by music, dancing, and entire communities moving together to the same rhythm. Carnival is the biggest celebration of the year. Every island celebrates it, but nowhere with more color and energy than Mindelo on São Vicente. Held each February or March, the festival transforms the city into a dazzling stage. Colorful parades fill the streets. Costumes that have taken months to create come to life, and the rhythm of drums blends with Creole music in a celebration unlike any other. Neighbors come together to create costumes. Local performers rehearse for weeks, and families line the streets to cheer on people they know. One of Carnival's most striking traditions is the Mandinga procession. Men cover their bodies in black paint, dress as warriors, and march through the streets to the pounding beat of drums. More than a lively performance, it is a tribute to Cape Verde's African heritage and to the ancestors who were brought to these islands during the transatlantic slave trade. As the celebrations fade, the costumes are packed away, and the streets grow quiet once more. Morna remains. Cape Verde's signature musical tradition was added to UNESCO's representative list of the intangible cultural heritage of humanity in 2019. Slow and deeply emotional, Morna tells stories of the sea, long voyages, homesickness, and the pain of separation. Cape Verdeans have a word for those feelings, saudade. It speaks of a deep longing for loved ones, for home, or for a life left behind, a feeling that no language can fully translate. Perhaps that is because, for centuries, leaving the islands has been part of Cape Verde's story. Drought, limited natural resources, and a shortage of economic opportunities have driven generations to cross the ocean in search of a better life. Few people realize that the Cape Verdean diaspora is now believed to outnumber the population living in the country itself. Generation after generation has left these islands to study, work, and build a future on the far side of the Atlantic. Unlike many other migrant communities, however, distance has rarely weakened their bond with home. That connection lives on through the money they send home, the journeys they make back to the islands, and the pride they feel whenever the Cape Verdean flag appears on the world stage. That connection was on full display in the summer of 2026. When Cape Verde made its historic FIFA World Cup debut. On the field were players born or raised in different parts of the world. Beyond the stadium, millions of Cape Verdeans, from Praia to Lisbon, Rotterdam, and Boston, followed every moment, united by the same blue, red, and white flag. For a brief moment, the Atlantic no longer separated the 10 islands or the Cape Verdean communities scattered across the world. The ocean may have carried them far from home, but their roots continued to draw them back. But the story does not end there. Many young Cape Verdeans still face the same choice their parents and grandparents once did. Leave the islands in search of a wider future across the ocean, or stay where family, community, and the sea continue to shape everyday life? The World Cup inspired millions of people to look up Cape Verde on a map for the first time. Behind that historic moment lies the story of a people who have endured drought, volcanic eruptions, and centuries of migration, yet have always known how to come together when their homeland calls. What impressed you most about this fascinating island nation? Share your thoughts in the comments.